Hello YouTube and welcome to Synthetic Oil Info. In this video we're going to talk about one of AMSOIL's classic diesel oils, their 15W-40 premium heavy duty diesel and marine. And the AMSOIL code on this is AME. This oil has been around for a long time. It has served as probably one of AMSOIL's top selling items. It was definitely the top selling diesel oil for many years prior to the introduction of the CI-4 specification back in 2007. Since then, this oil has dropped down a little bit because so many of the newer vehicles require CI-4 oil, and this oil is a CI-4 plus. This is very similar to the Series 3000 5W-30 heavy-duty diesel oil that we talked about in one of the other videos. But that's obviously a 5W-30, a lighter viscosity oil, and this is the traditional 15W-40. And 15W-40 is by far the most popular viscosity of diesel engine oil on the market. But like the heavy-duty diesel 5W-30, this 15W-40 shares a 12.1 total base number, and that total base number of 12.1 allows this oil to very effectively control the acid buildup in your engine oil that is a byproduct of the combustion process. And because it is such a high number at 12.1, it allows the oil to control that acid for a very long time. Like so many of the other diesel oils in the AMSOIL lineup, this does have a diesel engine service life of 3 times the OEM recommendation, not to exceed 50,000 miles or 600 hours in 1 year. And if you use it in a gasoline engine, it's 2 times the OEM recommendation, not to exceed 15,000 miles or 1 year. Any of those drain intervals can be extended if you utilize oil analysis services that are available from AMSOIL. There's also several other providers out there that will do oil analysis for you. But if you want to extend this oil life beyond those intervals that I just mentioned, you really need to run your oil through an oil analysis process. And it's a really good habit to get into, especially for your larger engines that hold high volume of oil, because it's so expensive to replace that oil. And if you make the investment in a really high quality synthetic oil, you don't want to be changing that unnecessarily. And the way to do that is to utilize oil analysis. And I'll talk more about that in another video. But if you've got a diesel engine or a vehicle with a diesel engine that does not require CI-4 oil, and CI-4 is that newer oil for 2007 or newer vehicles, and if you want to run a 15W-40, which the vast majority of people do, then this is definitely the oil you want to be running in those vehicles. It will provide you that extended drain interval opportunity. It will provide you with the very best protection that you can put in that engine with a synthetic engine oil. So you're going to get those faster startups. The engine oil is going to flow better when it's cold. It's going to protect better when it's hot. And so especially if you're towing heavy loads and you're subjecting that engine to constant stress, like most of you do with your diesels, then you really need to be putting in the very best oil you can. And for a CI-4 plus oil into 1540 grade, there's no better than this AMSOIL 15W-40. So many of these newer engines, and I'll just use the Power Stroke, the 6.0 especially, because that was the engine that was produced for the most number of years prior to 2007 when the CI-4 oil spec came out. But from 2003 through December of 2006, those Power Stroke 6.0s out there utilize a very complex injector system that is controlled with oil. They have a high pressure oil pump and they have oil actuated injectors. And the number one way to mess up those engines is to not run good oil and not change it when it's needed to be changed. Because that entire engine, in addition to the normal things inside of an engine that are lubricated by oil, that 6.0 power stroke, the entire fuel system is controlled by engine oil. And so when that oil starts to break down and starts to get dirty, the injectors don't work right, and then you start having starting problems, you have performance problems, the injectors start going bad. And if you've got one of those engines and you've been through this before, you know the cost of that. It's thousands of dollars and many, many hours of repair time. And your vehicle is off the road and not making you any money, not getting you to work, not doing the work that you need it to do. And the vast majority of those problems can be resolved or eliminated by using a better oil and changing that oil and keeping it clean. I mentioned this in one of the other videos as well. The power stroke, especially the 6.0 and the 6.4 engines, are prime candidates for bypass filtration. And that is where we take and add another oil filter to your engine, mounting it usually somewhere in the engine compartment or down on the frame rail. And it takes about 5 to 10% of the oil at any given time, and it runs it through a second oil filter, and that second oil filter scrubs that oil down to between 1 and 2 microns of dirt. And so it captures that soot, it captures those very fine particles of dirt that are in that oil, and by capturing those very small particles, it keeps them from grouping together and forming larger particles that cause most of the wear inside of your engine. There's been several tests that have shown that particles below 20 microns are the ones that cause the most wear inside of engines. And there's no coincidence that most of the full flow filters, that's your primary filter that came on the engine when it was new and the one that you replace every time you change your oil, those primary full flow filters only filter down to between 20 and 30 microns. That sounds pretty small, but what happens is that smaller dirt and soot and byproducts of the combustion process float around in the oil, and then they group together, called agglomerate together, and then but they're still small enough that they make it through your primary oil filter. So they keep circulating through your system, and then they'll wedge themselves in between a bearing and the crankshaft, or a bearing and the rod, or up in the cylinder wall somewhere, and they just start grinding away at the metal of your engine. And so there's really not a whole lot you can do to get rid of them other than install a bypass filter. And if you install that bypass filter, then it'll capture those particles before they can group together. And it can greatly extend the life of your oil and virtually eliminate the wear that takes place inside your engine. So you start running a better oil, better filters, including a bypass filter, and you can start getting hundreds of thousands of miles out of one of these engines. It's not uncommon for these engines to be able to go up to 1 million miles now with the proper oil and filter and other maintenance. So that's it. This is, again, I wanted to talk about the 15W-40 premium heavy-duty diesel and marine oil from AMSOIL. It's CI-4 plus and earlier specification rated. It's got a TBN of 12.1, so it's going to control that acid for a very long time inside your engine. There's just no better oil out there at the 1540 grade for CI-4 plus and earlier oil specifications. So check us out. If you want to place an order, go to MinutemanPerformance.com. Our email is info@MinutemanPerformance.com. I'll post a link to order down below this video. We're also on Facebook at Synthetic Oil Info. Please like us there, and please subscribe to our channel here as well, so that You can help us out by subscribing so that more people will get to see these videos and more people will be helped out with this information. We are here to try to help you get the maximum life out of your engines and your equipment and your vehicles. So please tell your friends about us, and y'all have a great day, and we'll see you on the next video.